Welcome to the deep dive. Where we take your sources
Hot
and
seat.
exactly. And today we're tackling something that's both pop culture and kind of spooky. The Simpsons predicting the future.
Yeah, a cartoon that seems to know what's going to happen sometimes like decades in advance.
It's wild, right? The source you sent in, it's a YouTube video, terrifying Simpsons predictions for 2024 that came true.
Oh yeah, from the Nature Discoveries channel.
That's the one. So basically, are the Simpsons just lucky guessers, or is there something weirder going on?
Let's find out. We can start with the tech stuff. Some of it's just mind-blowing considering we use this stuff every day.
Okay, so picture it. 1995, Lisa's wedding. Lisa's on a video call.
Way before Skype or anything like that was even around.
Right. And her fiance has a watch, but it's clearly not just for telling time.
It's totally a smartwatch prototype.
It's like they had a sneak peek at FaceTime and Apple Watches back in the 90s.
What's interesting, though, is it's not just about the gadgets themselves.
It's about how tech becomes part of our lives.
Right, they predicted not just the devices, but how naturally we'd use them.
Totally. Okay, and this one's even weirder. 1998, The Simpsons spin-off showcase.
Homer and Marge on a virtual dinner date.
And they're eating virtual food. And now...
Now there's that company, Aero Banquets RMX, doing VR dining experiences.
I know it's not like everyone's doing it, but
But it exists. It's real. The concept is there.
I think that's kind of a pattern.
Like they get the general idea right, even if the details are a bit off.
Exactly. Like in 2012, robot, Mr. Burns replaces his workers.
With robots. And he even says humans will train their replacements.
Hilarious, but also...
Yeah, a little too real these days.
Seriously, those waiter robots in Japan, self-driving cars, even AI tools like ChatGPT are making people worried about their jobs.
The Simpsons, they weren't predicting specific companies, but they got the anxiety we feel now spot on.
All right, one more tech prediction that's still in progress.
Oh, you mean the hologram thing?
Yeah. Last year's episode, Bart gets a hologram invitation. Seemed like pure science fiction then.
But there's that company, HoloConnects, working on it.
With their holobox, right?
Yeah.
Making hologram calls real.
Yep. Again, The Simpsons got the core idea, and now it's becoming reality.
Okay, enough gadgets. Let's talk about the really juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Politics and global events.
And there's one episode we have to talk about, Bart to the Future.
The episode that launched 1,000 conspiracy theories.
Exactly. It aired in 2000, way before.
Way before Trump even thought about running for president.
And they show him as a former president who messed up the economy.
And years later, well, we all saw what happened.
It's more than just him being president, though. Remember that sign, Trump 2024?
Yeah. And he did run again, even if he didn't win.
I think with the political predictions, it's not always about getting specific events.
Right, but it's more about the mood, the anxieties people had at the time.
Maybe. That episode aired during an election. Maybe it was tapping into those fears about what a Trump presidency could be like.
So less about fortune-telling, more about social commentary.
Right, exactly. And there's more in that episode.
Like Lisa becoming president.
Yeah, after Trump, and she's the first straight female president.
And now we have Kamala Harris as VP. Makes you wonder.
Who knows what could happen, right?
Okay, this next one is straight up predicting the future of companies. When you dish upon a star, 1998, there's a sign.
20th Century Fox, a division of Walt Disney Co., and then
Bam! 2017, Disney buys Fox.
the whole thing. It changed Hollywood. And the funny thing is,
Now Disney owns The Simpsons. Talk about a prediction coming full circle.
it's kind of wild, isn't it?
It really is. And speaking of Bart to the future again, remember that World War III warning?
Yeah, thank goodness that one hasn't come true.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
The world does feel kind of tense right now.
You've got the Israel-Palestine conflict, the war in Ukraine, the U.S. and Russia not getting along.
Maybe some of those predictions are more about the feeling of the future.
The overall vibe, yeah. The Simpsons, they're great at satire.
And sometimes the scariest predictions are the ones that get you emotionally, even if they're not literally true.
That's a good point. And speaking of scary, get ready for The Simpsons predictions about disasters and outbreaks. This is where things get really eerie. Yeah, it's like they take our worst fears and somehow turn them into jokes.
But then those jokes become reality and it's not so funny anymore.
Like in 1994, Marge gets a job.
The submarine implodes! And a few years later,
The Russian submarine Kursk sinks almost the exact same way.
it's so sad.
And then in 2006, there's that episode, Homer's paternity coup.
Where Homer's stuck in a submarine at the bottom of the ocean, and now we have
The Ocean Gate Titan tragedy. It's just unsettling. Episodes that were meant to be funny now have this.
big air of tragedy.
Exactly. And it's not just accidents. Remember Lisa's Sachs, 1997? Marge is reading a book to Maggie.
Curious George and the Ebola virus. At the time, it was just a silly joke.
And then, in 2014, the Ebola outbreak in West Africa.
Chilling.
It makes you wonder, were they just being random or were they tapping into something?
Like a collective fear about these kinds of diseases.
Maybe. And speaking of pandemics, we can't forget the Osaka flu episode.
Marge in Chains, 1993. A virus comes from overseas, everyone's panicking, things shut down.
It's COVID-19 all over again.
It really is. Like they were warning us, but we were too busy laughing.
I think The Simpsons often shows how anxieties about the world being so connected can play out.
Back then, it was about a flu. Now it's about everything. Viruses, supply chains, fake news spreading online.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Let's move on to something a little less gloomy.
Oh, yeah. The Simpsons have also predicted some good things happening.
Like in science and space exploration. Remember that episode where Lisa and Marge go to live on Mars?
The Margin Chronicles, 2016.
That's the one. And it's funny because it came out right around the time Elon Musk started talking about
Colonizing Mars with SpaceX. And his timeline for actually getting people there isn't that far off from what The Simpsons showed.
It's like they predicted that space exploration would become a big thing again.
Okay, but are you ready for this next one? It's seriously wild.
Hit me with it.
Remember The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, 1998? Homer's messing around writing equations on a chalkboard.
And one of those equations,
Predicts the mass of the Higgs boson particle. The God particle.
which wasn't discovered until like 2012.
I know. It's crazy to think a throwaway joke in The Simpsons could have real scientific truth in it.
What else is hidden in those episodes, right? Okay, back to predictions that are a little more bittersweet.
Oh, you mean like the magician getting attacked by the tiger?
Yeah, Springfield. Or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling, 1993. It's so similar to...
What happened to Roy Horn from Siegfried and Roy in 2003? It's a reminder that sometimes...
These predictions are about events that are tragic, but also had a big impact on everyone.
Exactly. And it's not always specific events. Sometimes it's more like a feeling, a trend.
Like Don't Have a Cow, Mankind in 2013.
Where everyone in Springfield goes crazy after eating crusty burgers made from cows that were fed other cows.
And they basically turn into zombies. Classic Simpsons.
But it also reflects those anxieties we have about what's in our food. Like, what are we really eating?
It's that fear of something going wrong with our food, whether it's getting sick or something even weirder.
The Simpsons takes those fears and make them extreme, but it makes you think.
Okay, like in Brother, Can You Spare 2 Dimes? In 1992, Homer's half-brother creates
A baby talk translator, and now you have companies like Zoundream.
using AI to figure out what babies are trying to say when they cry. Again,
The Simpsons didn't get the technology exactly right, but the concept is there.
it's like they can see the potential in even the craziest ideas.
Speaking of crazy ideas, New Kids on the Bletch, 2001. Bart's boy band is being used.
For a Navy recruitment scheme through subliminal messages in their music. It's hilarious.
But it also makes you think about how media can be used to influence us without us even knowing.
Like propaganda, fake news, all that stuff.
Yeah, and how social media can affect what we think and do.
Like they're telling us to be careful, to think for ourselves.
And to be wary of anyone trying to control us. Remember the Simpsons movie from 2007? That scene with the surveillance camera?
And Edward Snowden is listening in, which is crazy because a few years later...
He leaks all that information about the NSA spying on people.
And suddenly everyone's talking about privacy and security. It's like The Simpsons planted that seed in our minds.
That were being watched. They did it years before it became a big deal.
Okay, get ready for this one. It's seriously weird. The episode The Simpsons, 2017. Lisa finds a room full of glowing orbs.
And when she touches one, she's transported to the Middle East.
Where she sees world leaders, including Trump, touching a similar orb, and then...
In real life, May 2017, there's that photo of Trump touching a glowing orb with King Salman and the Egyptian president.
It went viral. Everyone was like, hold on, didn't The Simpsons already do this?
Life imitating art. It was funny, but also a little creepy.
Totally. It's like they knew it was going to happen.
Okay, what about the episode where Mr. Burns tries to block out the sun?
Who Shot Mr. Burns? From 1995. He wants to make more money from his nuclear power plant.
Yeah, and it's presented as this evil scheme, but it makes you think about powerful companies and...
Putting profit ahead of everything else, even the planet.
Right. And that brings us to another prediction about questionable
You
ethics.
don't have to live like a referee, 2014. They predicted the FIFA corruption scandal.
With that scene of a high-ranking FIFA official getting arrested for corruption, and then in
When
2015,
real-life FIFA scandal
and
breaks.
several officials are indicted on charges of racketeering and money laundering.
It's like they have this sixth sense for sniffing out corruption.
Perhaps, or maybe they're just incredibly astute observers of human nature and the systems we create.
Okay, one more prediction to blow our minds before we try to unpack how The Simpsons keeps pulling this off. The 2010 episode Boy Meets Curl, where Homer and Marge,
Win an Olympic gold medal in curling, with Sweden taking the silver medal.
and at the 2018 Winter Olympics,
The U.S. men's curling team wins gold.
and who takes over? Sweden. It's mind-blowing. I kind of want to go back and watch every episode now with a notepad and...
See what other predictions are hidden in there.
Right. But for now, let's try to figure this out. How does The Simpsons keep getting it right?
Is it just a coincidence, or is there something more to it?
Okay, my brain is officially overloaded. I mean, how is this even possible?
Right. It's the question everyone asks about The Simpsons. Some people say it's just coincidence. Like,
They've made so many episodes that statistically...
some of them were bound to come true.
Some of them are so specific.
I know, like the Higgs boson particle.
There's no way that's just a lucky guess.
Maybe the writers are just really good
At seeing what's coming.
yeah, like they're super perceptive about society and culture.
So they're not seeing the future, but
They're picking up on those little hints in the present that tell us where we're headed.
like cultural detectives.
Exactly. And they're masters of satire, so...
They're already looking for the funny, the strange, the things that make us anxious,
And then they exaggerate those things, take them to the extreme,
which is funny
till
until...
those extremes start to become our reality.
And then it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, for sure. But there's another theory, one that's a little more out there.
Okay.
I'm listening. Some people think The Simpsons might be tapping into
Tapping into what?
the collective unconscious.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that one.
It's an idea from psychology, basically.
Like a shared human consciousness.
Kinda. It's like there's this pool of human experiences, fears, desires that we're all connected to.
Even if we don't realize it.
Right. And maybe the Simpsons writers are somehow accessing that, picking up on those universal themes that...
That resonate across time.
Exactly. So it's not that they're psychic, but
But they're really good at listening to the universe. I like that.
it's a cool idea, right? It means the future isn't fixed, but...
But there are these patterns, these shared feelings that kind of guide where we're going.
Which makes The Simpsons not just a TV show, but...
But like a reflection of ourselves.
Right, a cultural barometer, I guess you could say. And maybe that's why we're so fascinated by their predictions.
Even the scary ones, because they make us think about ourselves and the world.
Exactly. They hold up this mirror and we see.
Ourselves, our fears, our hopes, all mixed up with a healthy dose of humor.
I don't think I'll ever watch The Simpsons the same way again.
Me neither. Every episode is like a puzzle now.
Full of hidden meanings and maybe even glimpses into the future.
So what do we tell our listeners? Should they start taking notes every time they watch The Simpsons?
Maybe not take notes, but definitely pay attention. Look for those themes, those anxieties that keep coming up.
Yeah,
Because,
The Simpsons might be giving us clues about what's to come.
and maybe, just maybe, if we understand those clues, we can.
Make better choices. Change the course of things.
So the jokes stay on the screen and don't become our reality.
That's a future worth fighting for. Well, that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through The Simpsons predictions. Until next time, keep those minds curious and remember you never know what the future holds.